Hey there, this is Homing, and today I'm going to talk about how did Andy Warhol affect pop art movements in America. So first, let's see what is pop art. Andy Warhol said, once you got pop, you could never see a sign the same way again, and once you saw pop, you could never see American the same way again. Pop art was an art movement in the late 1950s and 1960s that reflected everyday life and common objects. Pop artists blurred the line between fine art and commercial art. The pop artists moved away from abstract expressionism, which was the in style of art in the 50s. The abstract expressionists evoked emotions, feelings, and ideas through formal elements such as line, color, shape, form, and texture. Pop artists often use common images from everyday culture as their source, including advertisements, consumer goods, celebrities, photos, and comic strips sometimes. For their unique methods, pop artists use bold, flat colors and hard edges adopted from commercial designs like those found in billboards, murals, magazines, and newspapers. So you might heard of Andy Warhol and his famous works. He was born in Pittsburgh to Slovaki immigrant parents. He grew up sickly and spent a lot of time at home drawing with his mom, but he eventually escaped to New York after graduating from Carnegie Tech in 1949. He changed his name and quickly became a success as a commercial illustrator. He developed a signature technique that allowed him to trace and copy images and create a delicate blotted line. It was an early instance of his affinity for automation. Quote, I want to be a machine. He found other people or processes that do the work for and with him. He was determined to make it in the field of so-called fine art and started shopping for a way in. Instead of making art for advertisements, he started making advertisements as art, choosing subject matter that would find traction with the emerging field of pop art. He made paintings of Coca-Cola, S&H grain stamps, and of course, Campbell's soup cans. He saw these things as a common language, saying what's great about this country is that America started the tradition where the richest consumers buy essentially the same things as the poorest. And it wasn't about the individual things so much as the sheer abundance of things, which reflected the spread of mass manufacturing and growing post-war American consumer culture. Warhol started using with rubber stamps and stencils to make these paintings, but soon landed on silk screening as a way to speed things up. He created his well-known factory, which is the name of his art studio, and he set to work with assistants rolling out product after product, displaying them in warehouse-like arrangements. He was also interested in products of human variety and started making paintings of celebrities, reproducing images from publicity stills, newspapers, magazines, making shrewd commentary on the celebrity. In 1962, Warhol published his work Gold Marilyn Monroe. After a sudden death from an overdose of sleeping pills in August 1962, superstar Marilyn Monroe's life, career, and tragedy became a worldwide obsession. Warhol, being infatuated with fame and pop culture, obtained a black and white publicity photo of her and used the photo to create several series of images. A common idea to all the Marilyn works was that her image was reproduced over and over again, as one would find it reprinted in newspapers and magazines at the time. After viewing dozens or hundreds of such images, a viewer stops seeing a person depicted, but is left with an icon of popular consumer culture. The image became another cereal box on the supermarket shelf, one of hundreds of boxes, which are all exactly the same. In Gold Marilyn Monroe, Warhol further plays on the idea iconography, placing Marilyn's face on a very large golden-colored background. The background is reminiscent of religious icons that are the central focus in Orthodox faces to this day. Only instead of God, we are looking at an image. An image of a woman that rose to fame and died in horrible tragedy. Warhol subtly comments on our society and its glorification of celebrities to the level of the divine. Here again, the pop artist used common objects and images to make very pointed insights into the values and surroundings of his contemporaries. By the 1960s, the New York art world was in a rut. The very original and popular canvases of the abstract expressionists of 1940s and 50s had become cliché. Warhol was one of the artists that felt the need to bring back imagery into his work. The gallery owner and interior designer Lad Tu gave Warhol the idea of painting soup cans. When she suggested to him that he should paint objects that people use every day, he painted soup cans, boxes, and Coca-Cola bottles from 1962. Warhol started his career and became an extremely successful consumer and designer. Here, he used the techniques of his trade to create an image that is both easily recognizable but also visually stimulating. Warhol turned to the photo silkscreen process, a printmaking technique originally invented for commercial use. It would become his signature medium and link his art-making methods more closely to those of advertisements. Quote, "I don't think art should be only for the select few," he claimed. "I think it should be for the mass of the American." In 1986, Warhol's self-portrait that he created throughout his career revealed an underlying theme. It can be argued that Warhol's most successful artwork was the image of himself, invented and reinvented over his body of work. Simply consider the fact that Warhol started his art career as a nerdy, shy, boding designer and ended his art career as a star whose popularity could match his greatest artworks like Marilyn Monroe and Mao. In his particular work, the focus is on Warhol's head and wig, one of dozens he wore over the years. By using repetitive images, each slightly different to the next, and then overlapping the images, Warhol produces the illusion of movement, created towards the end of his life. Self-portrait displays the artist in his signature wig, and also makes dramatic use of shadow and light. There are a number of subjects that reappearing again and again in Warhol's work. Shoes, products, money, celebrities, rich people, disaster, death, himself, and again shoes, products, money, celebrity, rich people, disaster, death, and himself. But these weren't just Warhol's obsessions. They are deeply reflective of the culture of the time. If you ascribe the theory that the 20th century was the American century, then Warhol's work takes on even more importance. His work charts the development of our obsession with fame and questions the and questions the growing commercialization and the uniformity of most areas of American life. Warhol was an extremely astute businessman who formed his first corporate entity, Andy Warhol Enterprises, and he never really stopped working for hire. He made thousands of commissioned portraits, and by 1970s, Andy Warhol's art becomes a big part of his income. Anyone could have their portrait made for $25,000, with additional canvases available at discount rates. Along with his services, Warhol was also keen to trade on his own image, creating numerous self-portraits throughout his career and offering himself up for endorsements. And of course, Warhol was not just an artist, but also a filmmaker, band manager, magazine publisher, and TV producer who fearlessly explored and embraced new media and new technology from the 1950s until his ultimately death in 1987. He was often a shapeshifter, always open to the new, always innovating, and always reflecting the time. Pop art makes the best use of them and maximize its own effects. And that's the end. Thanks for your time.